Welcome to Whisperer of Madness. If you're enjoying the story, consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps grow the channel and this community. Convergence. A plot hatched. A chandelier hung loosely and emitted a dim orange light in the hazy night. The light from the street lamps was diffused, making one feel sleepy. Beside the chandelier was a bar that was already closed. A thank you sign was hung on the door, the surroundings quiet. After a day's hard work, the residents nearby had already entered slumber in their tiredness. Even the drunkards, tramps, and the like had found their own cozy kennels, not intending on sleeping outdoors on the streets in such cold weather. At this moment, the sound of leather boots rubbing against the ground echoed through the area. A tall figure walked out of thin air, coming before the door and knocking on it. Thud, thud, thud. The dull sound carried a unique rhythm and charm. The door opened after a while, exposing the face of an old lady. There was a slight reverence amidst her vigilance. "Sir, you're finally here. I was slightly delayed by some matters on the way." The person walked into the bar and took off his hood, exposing his original appearance. His handsome face was strange, and his long black hair casually stuck to the back of his head. He seemed very youthful and capable. Mysterious spirals spun continuously in his black pupils, even a single glance able to draw in a person's soul. After defeating Bevis and obtaining his bloodline, Leyland had worked incessantly on turning it into an imprint. He'd even almost missed his appointment with Melinda because of this. However, Leyland felt like all this was worth it. Spending more time here would add another bloodline imprint to his deck, and was definitely worth more than the cost. After all, he was here this time to deal with a breaking dawn monarch. This was the highest level of existence in the central continent, and Leyland could not afford to not be more careful. After entering the bar, Leyland followed the old lady to a cellar. Passing through a helical dark and damp passageway that smelled like rot, Leyland finally saw Melinda once more. "Leyland, you're finally here. We've been waiting for a long time." Melinda's eyes sparkled upon meeting Leyland, and she spoke a little coquettishly. "We." Leyland's gaze twinkled, immediately looking at the few other people in the room. The old lady had already withdrawn respectfully. There were 3 other strange figures remaining in the room besides Melinda. One of them was a hefty fellow who wore black armor, and another was a woman whose entire body was wrapped in a black Magus robe. The last one didn't even look human anymore, and was simply a black shadow in the mirror. Spirit Magus. Leyland looked at the shadow in the mirror attentively, and could explicitly sense that he was not using any kind of clone. He couldn't help but utter a deep sigh at the fact that the shadow was his main body. The spiritual force of a Magus was tyrannical like no other. Even after death, there was a very high chance of transforming into some sort of evil spirit. And if this kind of evil spirit still held their rationality, they could learn spells and become a spirit Magus. And for a morning star who possessed soul force, transmuting the soul was but a small operation. Although Leyland had heard some things about spirit magi, that circle was very narrow and remote. He'd never expected that Melinda would actually be able to get one here, and a radiant moon Magus one at that. "Your insight is still as good as before," Melinda gasped in admiration. "This Jinn, he was once a good friend of mine. The other 2 are Clark and Joanna, assistants I've hired. As for the twin Gemini, I've long since heard of you too. I didn't expect that Melinda would actually be able to bring you here as well." Leyland greeted Clark and Joanna with a smile. According to his intelligence, these 2 radiant moon siblings assisted each other in the central continent, and each was fairly famous on their own. They were also the rare type that didn't have any organizations attached to them. "Your Highness, Leyland." Joanna, whose entire body was wrapped in a black robe, seemed to be bad at socializing. All of these matters were settled by the hefty black-armored Clark. "And Sir Jin," Leyland looked at the shadow in the mirror again. Although he knew perfectly well that he was a spirit Magus, he still felt as if there was something hidden to this person, their aura making him uncomfortable. "ZZZ, your body." The shadow in the mirror suddenly fluctuated for a moment, emitting the strength of a conscient. "Has something. That makes me feel danger. It's what I specially prepared for this operation," Leyland smiled. His right index finger suddenly felt tighter, and a gray ring now on his finger emitted a mysterious light. This ring would normally be very inconspicuous, as if the shoddy work of some slipshod salesman in an ordinary shop. However, it was indeed notable when it appeared in the hands of a radiant moon warlock like Leyland. After hearing Jin's words, Clark and even Joanna, who'd been quiet all this while, looked at Leyland with interest, as if wanting to find out about his cards. All right, no matter what Leyland brought, it'll be useful to our operation this time. Melinda clapped her hands. Comrades, don't forget why we gathered here. How could I forget? Clark let loose a deep howl, blue veins popping out on his hands as his entire person stirred up. Seeing his distorted face, Leyland was certain that he definitely had some painful past related to the blazing flame monarch that was unbearable to recall. However, this did not concern him at all. He was instead constantly calculating the probability of using him. No need to worry, brother. I will help you this time. Anna placated Clark by patting the back of his hand, causing the berserk aura to fade. He then regained his rationality. Sorry, I was too agitated. Clark, who had sobered up, bowed deeply. There was an unwavering determination on his face, carrying the smell of blood. As for Sir Clark's previous encounter, I've also heard a little about it. Melinda nodded but did not continue. Everyone present here has hatred for the blazing flame monarch, and today we've gathered to act on it. Melinda's voice suddenly grew dignified. Stop spouting rubbish. I'm only concerned with your promises. When can you fulfill them? The spirit Magus in the mirror said with initiative. I agree as well. We're already at this point. You should explain clearly about your plan and the blazing flame monarch's weakness. And what about the benefits that come afterwards? Leyland parroted Jin's viewpoint. Joanna and Clark shot a glance at each other and both nodded. We agree as well. I only waited for everyone to arrive before I said it. Melinda glanced at Leyland with a slight look of grievance. As everyone knows, there are only 2 large bottlenecks as a Magus, one from rank 3 to 4 and another from 6 to 7. The challenges at both these times are extremely huge, but a breakthrough also has abundant benefits. It is to the extent that those who do can steamroll over those who haven't. Melinda began to speak with fervor and assurance. We already know all this. There's a limit to my patience, Clark yelled deeply. Relax, I'm almost there. Melinda rolled her eyes at Clark. The gap between Breaking Dawn and Radiant Moon, although not as obvious as that between rank 3 and rank 4, it is still an insurmountable gap. But at that time, a problem occurred during the Flame Monarch's advancement. There was even a period of time where his strength was at the lowest point. This is why I absolutely had to gather all of you here at this time. Melinda's mouth curved in a smile, but it carried an intense hatred. The Breaking Dawn monarchs in the central continent are all very terrifying. They've even begun to touch upon laws and the origin of the world. The blazing flame monarch is the same, in the process of familiarizing himself with the laws of fire. Melinda's voice seemed to carry a strange attraction. The blazing flame monarch is at his weakest, almost falling below rank 6. I know the layout of his lair like the back of my hand. If we can kill the opponent at this time, we may even be able to obtain his law comprehension crystals. Law comprehension crystals, Clark exclaimed, and a sparkle appeared in Leyland's eyes. Yes, the law comprehension crystal that contains all of a former Magus, understanding of the power of laws, and even some of his previous experiences, memories, and such. It will be very helpful for our promotion to rank 6. Melinda looked at the few magi present. Even if it's a Breaking Dawn, one's ability to comprehend laws is a huge threshold that divides strength. If we can obtain the Blazing Flame Monarch's law comprehension crystal, we'll be able to attain rank 6 the moment we advance there, and even be at the boundary of rank 7. Indeed, among the rank 6 magi, the only discernible intra-ranking is whether they can access the laws or not. There was a clear understanding look in Leyland's gaze. Breaking Dawns were very knowledgeable in the true soul and soul force. After reaching rank 6, they would soon near the limit of their spirit, and the only difference would be how much they could comprehend laws. A Breaking Dawn who didn't have contact with laws, and one that was beginning to comprehend its power, were on completely different levels. Once a Magus gained complete control over a certain law or power, they would also enter the rank 7 realm. Leyland was faintly excited in his heart. He was beginning to vaguely discover the path after rank 5. Magi practice spiritual force before rank 4, soul force before rank 7. Rank 7 is when one has gained control of a certain law. He stroked his chin. In that case, what does Dream Force represent? Dew City, based on what Melinda said, whether one had begun to comprehend laws made up for the greatest power distinction among Breaking Dawns. The monarchs of the central continent had obtained the strength of the worlds they conquered, and each began to touch upon a specific law. This was why they were called monarchs. The blazing flame monarch obtained extra strength from the origin force of the fiery world and began touching on the law of fire. Once he completely wielded the power of flames, that was when the title of monarch could be held high in the sky, when one could advance to become a rank 7 Magus that controlled laws. The knowledge and memories that Magi at this level of strength had about laws was very beneficial to a radiant moon like Leyland. The blazing flame monarch's power is at a low. How long will this last? This was what Leyland was focused on. At least a month, and it could approach 100 days. 3 months, effectively. Melinda laughed like a little fox. Because of certain reasons that everyone knows, the radiant moons under the blazing flame monarch like Carol and Eugene are dead. This means his defenses are definitely weak. Leyland stayed silent. Those 2 radiant moons had died at his hands. Of course, Melinda had been even more vicious in eliminating the remaining peak radiant moon. Now that he thought about it, everything that Melinda had done so far was to clip the opponent's wings before dealing the final blow. It all had meaning to it. I've invited all of you here so that we can take care of the blazing flame monarch in one go. Do you have any questions? Terrifying energy waves rippled out from Melinda as she spoke, showing a strength at the peak of radiant moon. Her voice had lost its childishness, the callousness now as chilling as winter's ice. Clark started by yelling out, "All right, as long as I can have my vengeance on the blazing flame monarch, I'll do anything. Brother's decision is my decision." Joanna watched her brother, her eyes full of tenderness. "Keek, law comprehension crystals will be distributed without any issues. What's so bad about doing this?" The soul Magus in the mirror laughed coldly. "How about you, Lord Leyland? The blazing flame monarch seems to have you in his thoughts, plotting so many attacks against the Ouroboros clan." Melinda seemed rather knowledgeable regarding this matter, which led to a hint of dissatisfaction inside Leyland. However, their goals in attacking the blazing flame monarch intersected, and they would get the same benefits. Leyland nodded. "I'm joining in as well. One thing, though, how will you ensure the benefits are distributed evenly? Can you ensure that each one of us will get what they want?" Having said this, Leyland's eyes twinkled as he watched Melinda intently. Meeting his gaze, Melinda could only laugh wryly. "I can't guarantee that the operation will definitely succeed. The opponent is a Breaking Dawn Magus after all. However, I can ensure that the earnings from this will definitely be distributed evenly. We can even sign a contract under the Trial's Eye. With our strength, the Trial's Eye we summon will definitely be a clone with its own thoughts. It won't glaze over any loopholes that we can make use of." "All right then, that's fine by me." Leyland nodded his head. Every word of a radiant moon had enough weight to it that one could consider that a contract in itself. With the restrictions by Trial's Eye, he had no way to break the agreement. After all, the Trial's Eye that they could summon was a highly ranked existence that had its own sentience, and was linked to the main body at all times. With such a Trial's Eye, the solution of the nefarious Filthbird's feathers would no longer have any effect unless a clone of the Filthbird itself descended as well. However, that would cause too great a disturbance. "Good. Since everyone has agreed, let's discuss the plan." A streak of light flew from Melinda's hand to the air, forming a translucent screen. "My intel says that the target isn't hiding in his nest, but instead holed up in one of the world cracks, surrounding the fiery world with many mazes constructed around him. Our objective this time is to launch a surprise attack on his nest, Dew City. The opponent's astral gate and the coordinates to the fiery world are all there. Afterwards, we'll force our way into the fiery world and kill the monarch." Melinda waved her arms resolutely, extremely determined. She glanced at every one of them. There might not be a single radiant moon in Dew City right now. There's probably just a group of morning stars subordinate to the blazing flame monarch watching over it. After we take it down, we can obtain all the wealth of a rank 6 organization. After they listened to Melinda's plan, a light glinted in the eyes of the Magi in the room, save for Leyland. An organization with a monarch at its head, its members had plundered the central continent for thousands of years. Even if only a small portion of that wealth was in Dew City, it was enough for rank 5 Magi to grow quite wealthy. "There's no time to lose. Let's set off now." Melinda's hands were on her waist, her chest puffed out, and her voice back to its original childlike tone. The huge contrast with her solemn expression almost caused Leyland to burst out in laughter. The other Magi didn't have as many doubts as Leyland. A few streaks of green light rumbled past, and Melinda and the others completely disappeared from the underground room. Endless darkness engulfed the area. Dew's City. The capital of the Blazing Flame Monarchs organization had thick city walls that had many reinforcement runes on them. Giant adamantine cannons had their own great history as they displayed the prowess of the monarch to his people. There was an unending flow of wandering magi and scholars here, each of them having arrived due to its reputation. Most of the new arrivals were full of reverence towards this gigantic Magus city. This was Dew's. With the protection of a breaking dawn Magus like the Blazing Flame Monarch, it was said that this place would never fall. Dew's City did not have any floating techniques like Sky City, nor did it have such rich reserves of knowledge, but it did occupy much more land than Sky City. The city was divided into many districts, with the monarch's residence occupying the center. A bundle of unending flames burnt at the heart of the city, radiating a holy light that proclaimed its glory and might to the masses. However, all of Dew's glory and might would become history today. It all started with the rumble of an earthquake. The sand on the ground began to pulse without pattern, the vibrations becoming increasingly intense. This earthquake spread through the houses, rocks, and mountains. It was as if the ground had softened, forming constant waves like the sea. A large number of clouds filled the skies, completely blocking the sunlight. Dazzling white snakes made of lightning rolled about in the clouds, seemingly shattering space itself. Terrifying spells rippled with boundless might, pressing closer towards the city. Countless magi within the city looked up, staring at the scene with incomprehension. Only a tottering old man seemed to think of something, beginning to tremble. Spell attack! Pooh. He immediately turned into a white streak of light. Grabbing a few youngsters behind him, he ignored the ban on flying and fled quickly. There's actually someone who dare attack Dew's City? We're in a huge crisis. In spite of his shock, the old Magus' abundant life experience had instantly alerted him of the approaching danger. An existence that could disregard the might of the Blazing Flame Monarch and brazenly challenge him was definitely no fool. Since they had come here, then they must have been extremely confident. The Blazing Flame Monarch was a rank 6 Magus, a peak existence in the central continent. Even a finger from either party could crush an old Magus like him. They probably didn't even need that, just the stray undulations from battle would reduce his body to nothingness. Hence, he immediately thought of fleeing, bringing his descendants away from this place that would soon become a battlefield. Wah, what's going on, grandfather? A youngster was still confused. Immediately after, he cried out involuntarily, "How's it possible?" Terrifying earthquakes and thunderstorms could be seen in the direction of his gaze. It was as if a natural catastrophe had struck Dew's City and was now wreaking havoc. The Magi below the Morning Star realm could not withstand this apocalypse and died in swathes. Faced with the ire of high-ranked Magi, all these low-ranked Magi were as minute as ants. The acolytes and regular humans, who were even weaker, obviously suffered massive casualties. Only those like the old Magus who acted quickly and fled from Dew's City left the scope of the disaster with some difficulty, watching Dew's City in fear. The capital of the Blazing Flame Monarch has been attacked. Oh, goodness. Heavens, am I dreaming? A few children exclaimed in shock. Quick, look. Following the direction of a child's finger, the old Magus looked into the sky where there were 5 existences that seemed like gods. The berserk lightning disappeared around them, forming a strange vacuum. Tens of figures appeared in the air, surrounding them. However, it was the side that had more people that seemed to be feeling dread. Perhaps only existences at Morning Star and above have the qualifications to take part in this battle. The old Magus sighed inside and flew even quicker. Crushing and sneak attack, seeing only a few streaks of light fleeing from the range of their attack in Dew's City, Leyland sighed in disappointment. Even Magi have lost their awareness of danger. It's not that they've lost their awareness. It's just that they don't believe it. The safety of Dew's City is as guaranteed as the fact that the sun rises in the east and water flows downhill. It is their truth, their law. They never considered that there would be a day when their city is attacked. Melinda spoke disdainfully. Magi like these are a disgrace to our Magus world, vermin. Let me purge them. Her hands pushed downwards with complete coldness. Rumble, ka-cha. The earth rumbled and countless lightning snakes crackled, their berserk behavior intensifying tenfold as they charged towards Dew's City. The earth seemed to cave into some formless pressure, forming a pit. It was as if the air itself was being crushed. Countless acolytes and regular humans instantly turned into a bloody mist. The thunderstorm crashed down on Dew's city, causing the rank 2s and 3s who'd been lucky enough to flee to suffer massive losses. Thunder purgatory, wash away all that filth. Melinda's expression was callous, her voice strangely spreading far and wide. Lightning struck down violently, plowing through the city. This woman is insane. Leyland's pupils shrank as he felt the power hidden within the rank 5 spell. Though he wasn't any sort of good Samaritan, he wouldn't kill people for no reason at all. His murders were committed for benefits. Melinda's actions made it seem like she was venting some repressed emotions after a long period of time. Leyland touched his chin, having some conjectures of his own. Enough! It was at this juncture that someone like a retainer to the monarch yelled from amongst those magi at Leyland and the rest. Even if all of you are radiant moon magi, you can't trample on the territory of a breaking dawn like this. The blazing flame monarch will punish you. The tens of morning star magi surrounding Leyland and the rest all wore Magus robes with flame runes carved into them. It was similar to a uniform. This Magus, who was like a retainer, was their leader. Ho ho, he said they want to punish us. I'm so scared. Melinda covered her mouth, voice turning into that of a young girl. How are you going to punish us? Just burning our souls? It's been long, have you no creativity? Though she looked innocent, what Melinda said caused the surrounding magi to shrink back. What? Aren't you going to come and punish me? Melinda took a step forward, and the tens of magi around her couldn't help but retreat, cold sweat on their faces. Good heavens! While they were subordinates of the blazing flame monarch, they were only morning stars facing 5 radiant moon magi. If Carol, Eugene, or the other radiant moon were around, they definitely had the courage to do so, but now. Hee. If you're not coming here, then I'll go there. Melinda's eyes seemed to flash with white lightning, and she turned into a gust of wind. What do you want to do? I won't let you do whatever you want. Morning star domain, arcane art. The morning star Magus that looked like a retainer struggled, the rings of light that represented 4 innate spells beginning to flicker behind him. Boom. In that moment, Melinda had arrived in front of him and raised her arms, her pale, slender palms penetrating his innate defenses. Under his astounded expression, the rings from his innate spells were extinguished. You! How's that possible? The old retainer spat out blood. The backlash from his spell being interrupted had even cracked his sea of consciousness. Power of isolation again. You really do lack in creativity. Melinda shook her head, grabbing him by the neck. Peak radiant moon. She's a peak radiant moon Magus. Everything Melinda had just done was executed exquisitely, but even so, it would require a strength at the peak of rank 5. Only that would suffice to suppress a morning star arcane art and even cause a backlash. After this was made obvious, the many morning star magi stared at Melinda in immense fear. The retainer, who was being held by the neck flushed red, gritting out a few words from between his teeth. Master blazing flame monarch won't let you off. I'll be waiting. Even if your master doesn't come for me, I'll go look for them. Melinda chuckled. Her outrageous words resulted in even more dread on the part of the morning stars. Warning! Warning! Large numbers of enemies have appeared, determined to be at rank 5. Automatic defenses have been activated, dispatching Discipline Legion. A robotic voice sounded in the golden flames at the heart of Dew's city. This was the spirit genie that controlled the city's defenses. The giant adamantine cannons and defensive runes on the city walls that were yet to be destroyed flickered to life with its words. Rumble. A short distance away, 2 legions of magi advanced like a black tide. It reacted in less than 10 seconds and even dispatched troops. Not bad, Leyland praised. Hee. That's the Monarch's elite corps, the Crimson Fire Legion and the Discipline Legion. It's a pity that their leaders have all fallen at our hands. Melinda surveyed the area and then asked disdainfully, which of you are going to take care of this? The moment she jabbed forward, a black streak charged into the Discipline Legion. A gigantic black sword could be seen weaving through the troops, spilling blood and flinging flesh. Their terrifying magic attack seemed to have no effect on the giant sword, and the Legion immediately fell into chaos. Keek! Since Clark has chosen the Discipline Legion, I'll go for the Crimson Fire. Just as well, I need a large number of spirit bodies as supplements anyway. Jin snickered from nearby. He currently looked like a hologram, his extremely blurry body suddenly increasing in size. His black robes spread around to cover the Crimson Fire Legion like a curtain. Woo! With a strange whistling, the magi of the Crimson Fire Legion collapsed one after another, rays of light that seemed like souls floating from their heads. These things that were similar to white flames were all absorbed by the black robe. Whether it was rank 1 and 2 Magi troops, or even the squadrons of rank 3s and 4s, everything completely fell apart. Numerous Magi howled as they cast blindingly bright spells, with some morning star arcane arts even, but Jin easily blocked them. With ruthless resolution, the black robe continuously absorbed the souls. A spell that specifically targets the soul, Leyland's eyes flashed. Though it can only deal with Magi below rank 5, it's best for harvesting weaklings. In their short confrontation, the blazing flame monarch's 2 elite legions completely crumbled down, and many of their Magi immediately tried to flee. The few morning stars at the corners exchanged glances, coming to a mutual understanding as they turned into streaks of light and disappeared into the distance. Don't go. The Magus that Melinda was holding onto by the neck was still struggling, but unfortunately, it was to no avail. In a situation where the 2 elite legions were decimated, and the blazing flame monarch was not showing himself, the Morning Star Magi would be fools if they continued to stake their lives on this and fight radiant moons. Let me do something as well. Leyland stood up at the moment, staring at the giant cannons and adamantine puppets controlled by the city's spirit genie. It'll be strange if I don't. He laughed slightly, producing a few gray test tubes from his pouch and tossing them into the air. The sound of shattering glass sounded as the test tubes collided in midair. A white powder spread from the point of impact, constantly increasing in volume until it covered all of Dew's city in a few moments. The giant adamantine cannons on the city walls creaked as if under an incredible burden, eventually collapsing with a rumble to reveal a frame that had been completely corroded. A thick layer of rust formed on numerous adamantine puppets, as if a long period of time had passed. They turned into a huge pile of scrap iron. Numerous runes lost their luster inch by inch, and even the spirit genie's voice from the heart of Dew's city seemed to lose its coordination, as if something powerful was interfering with it. Hee, good job, Leyland. If the spirit genie continues to control the defensive forces of the city, it would have been comparable to a radiant moon. Though we aren't afraid of it, it's best to eliminate such troubles. Melinda encouraged him with a smile on her face. How did you know? The retainer in the air widened his eyes in astonishment. You don't need that information. Look how the city has crumbled, you should die and rot with it. Melinda sighed, and the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. Swish. At this moment, something strange happened. The void beside Melinda crumbled, and a translucent figure emerged to form a bayonet spike that pierced towards her abdomen. Rank 5 energy was emitted from this translucent figure, even if only at new moon. This sudden attack was enough to land Melinda in trouble. However, she still chuckled as she let go of the retainer's corpse, a crystal shield appearing in front of her. In the distance, Joanna suddenly ended her inaction. Large amounts of vines spread through the space, wrapping around the assassin. So you're the hidden trump card of the blazing flame monarch, a radiant moon assassin. Just Dew's city alone has tens of morning stars and a radiant moon guarding it. I'm growing more interested in my future profits. Control and discovery, the translucent figure being bound by the vines, had a pair of deathly still eyes. Even though the assassination had been unsuccessful, there were no undulations whatsoever despite his life being at risk. Rumble, a terrifying force from his trousseau, formed 5 different rings of light. Radiant moon arcane art. His voice was hoarse, as if he had not spoken for a long time. The surrounding morning star magi also gritted their teeth, power pouring forth from their point masses to support their morning star arcane arts. This radiant moon evidently had made contact with these morning star magi at some point and arranged a counterattack. Pack. Leyland instantly came before a morning star magus, a giant serpent figure from his hands ruthlessly piercing through the other party's innate defenses, causing him to cough blood while quickly retreating. The backlash from a morning star arcane art being interrupted caused that magus to howl in agony. If the 10 or so morning stars were to attack me together, I might find it slightly troublesome, but now. Leyland looked towards Melinda. A terrifying rank 5 energy storm was swallowing the region around her. However, Leyland could sense Melinda's aura. She was fine. After so many years, it's only these few magi that are loyal to the blazing flame monarch. How pitiful. As Leyland's eyes scanned past the area, the morning stars could not stand the immense pressure, and the rings of light from their arcane arts collapsed behind them. They held their heads and escaped. Rumble. Radiant moon soul force spread brazenly about the battlefield. A few rays of light suddenly pierced through and dispersed the energy storm, revealing the figure of that rank 5 radiant moon Magus. Although there was a cross-shaped wound on him that was corroding into his body, a terrifying radiant moon arcane art had taken form in his hands. Void flames, the radiant moon murmured under his breath. A formless flame energy emerged from the void that caused even Leyland's expression to change. Melinda and Joanna, those two idiots. How could they let their opponent finish his arcane art? He cursed, fingers pressing on the gray ring causing fog to permeate the area. Melinda saw her opponent casting void flames from in front of her, but surprisingly her expression was as if she'd gotten away with something. She began chanting, seriousness emerging on her face. Her right hand pointed in the direction of the void flames. Adhering to the ancient agreement of the trucial, void flames, devour everything before me for my sake. The formless flames crackled and flowed backwards, enveloping the very Magus who'd cast them within. Boiling heat spread through the area as the sound of an innate spell crumbling mixed with cries of disbelief and pain. Impossible! Why can you manipulate the flames? You're... He was cut off at this point, devoured by the formless flames. His blood and flesh separated from his skeleton, and in the end even his bones melted down. The energy from a trucial being destroyed spread out. This radiant moon arcane art even targeted the soul. Seeing the opponent's figure being annihilated, Leyland removed his palm from his ring, pupils shrinking, controlling a radiant moon arcane art and causing it to act on the user. This is more difficult than interfering with it. Unless... Swish. Seeing that their radiant moon had fallen and the blazing flame monarch still wasn't showing himself, the remaining Morning Star Magi completely lost their will to battle on. Air exploded and light flashed as they fled or teleported away. This radiant moon should have been the blazing flame monarch's last line of defense. Having done all this, Melinda seemed to be in a strange state. She seemed sorrowful yet relieved, as if a heavy weight had been lifted off her shoulders. The rule of the blazing flame monarch hereby ends. Melinda sighed, hand making a grabbing action towards the heart of Dew's city. Rumble. A large white palm appeared in the air, grasping the holy fire right at the center. Under such an attack, even the tower genie was completely wrecked instantly. Dew City quieted down, and the light from its large-scale defensive spell formation dimmed. Could it be? Is Dew City going to have a different master from today on? What about the blazing flame monarch? Where is he? The surviving Magi let out noises of disbelief. Yet all of them had one premonition from the extinguishing of the holy fire. Today would be a turning point in the history of the central continent. Groups of Magi wearing robes with lightning patterns on them arranged the defenses outside in an orderly manner, gathering resources and the like. Occasionally, a few old people worked on decrypting the warehouse's defensive formations. These lightning pattern Magus robes were the signature of Jupiter's lightning. Besides them were Magi with a Gemini sign on their robes, doing the same thing. Seeing Melinda and Clark so brazenly ordering their organizations to plunder the area, Leyland was left speechless. He hadn't considered these matters when they'd set out. Even if he wanted to dispatch the Warlocks of the Union, he didn't have the authority yet. As for the Warlocks of the Ouroboros clan, they were too low-ranked and would only serve to embarrass him. Melinda approached Leyland and stared at the Magi of Jupiter's lightning outside, her eyes undecipherable. My subordinates will set up defensive spell formations and guard them, which will help us gain some time. She had helped Zegna build Jupiter's lightning, and now the whole organization was in her hands. If Zegna were still alive, he might have died of rage. The Magi with a Gemini symbol on them belonged to Clark and Joanna. Seeing the bulging sacks under their clothes, it was obvious that they had obtained many treasures. Dew City was the core of the blazing flame monarch's territory, and the precious items within were innumerable. If not for the blazing flame monarch currently being in a weak phase, staying somewhere else to avoid danger, Leyland and the rest would not have taken the area down so easily. With the action of 5 radiant moons, the change in leadership of Dew City had occurred smoothly. Besides Leyland and the rest who had obtained some great items, even their subordinates had gained ample rewards. Ow! Roar. At this moment, Leyland saw a monster formed of several gigantic beasts charging forward, showing berserk determination and bloodlust. What is that thing? Leyland stared at what seemed to be a giant, mutated slime formed from gelatin and was stunned. That's the biological laboratory of the blazing flame monarch. I let out all the experiments being imprisoned there. Melinda took out a mirror and tidied her long hair, not really caring about this. Such a dangerous thing. Leyland was speechless. Some of these monsters were evidently as powerful as morning stars. One of them was laying low, and Leyland could sense its desire for slaughter. Once let out, a calamity would descend on this region. Even morning star magi would be in trouble if they were besieged by these creatures. It's not our organization nor our territory. Is there a need to worry about this? Melinda blinked at Leyland, seeming innocent. All right, come with me, everyone. I've already analyzed the coordinates of the fiery world from the astral gate. Joanna's voice sounded, and all the magi gathered at the heart of the room. A flaming astral gate was there, already activated. This was the gate in Dew's City's astral laboratory, and the coordinates had been decoded from it. It was also why Melinda was confident in bringing Leyland and the rest to their final target, the place where the blazing flame monarch was hiding. The blazing flame monarch was currently at their weakest. Leyland and the rest had already plundered Dew's City, which would completely offend the monarch anyway. If they didn't want to be attacked in revenge, the only way was to strike first and eliminate the monarch. Perhaps this was also why this woman had us break Dew's first, to compel us to follow through. Leyland shot Melinda a glance. The female Magus seemed to be very calm now, but he could see a trace of emotion in her eyes. The opponent has hidden the coordinates to the fiery world within a pile of wrong data, but I still managed to find it. With a tap by Joanna, a few sparks flew towards Leyland and the others. Beep. Discovered spiritual force information, determined to be astral coordinates, no records in database. The AI chip immediately intoned. All the information in the spark was immediately transmitted to Leyland. Melinda nodded. The coordinates to this world was one of the prizes from this operation. We've agreed before on everyone having it. Immediately after, the spark was flicked into the astral gate. Blue flames flickered violently, forming something like a door. A terrifying boiling heat was transmitted from behind the astral gate. The last step in our operation shall be completed in the spatial crack of the fiery world. Let's go. Melinda was the first to step into the astral gate. We've all left behind puppets or clones here. If the situation is off, we can immediately open the astral gate and return, Joanna spoke slowly. Outside there's the chaos from the beasts, and we have subordinates keeping watch. We have ample time for warnings. Having said this, she walked in together with Clark. Let's go! Leyland watched Jin, who was in void form, and rubbed his nose. They stepped into the radiance of the astral gate together. Maze Leyland had already experienced space-time travel several times, and by this point was used to it. The moment he passed through the astral gate, the peak new moon trussel in his sea of consciousness began to twinkle, a layer of gentle and quiet yet very solid soul force enveloping his body. Whether it was spatial turbulence or terrifying world's will, everything was kept out by it. Even morning stars could roam around nearby world cracks using just their body defenses. This was no issue at all for radiant moons. Through a soul force scan, Leyland sensed a world full of fire elemental particles. Unlike the lava world he'd been to before, this place lacked rocks and other energy particles. It was a world of pure red, filled only by fire. The world's origin force of fire elements was several times greater than that of the lava world. If the lava world was a celestial body, then although one couldn't liken this world to a boiling sun, it would be a moon. The larger a world, the richer its world origin force. Under the influence of the origin force here, it's not strange for a rank 6 Magus to comprehend some laws of fire. Leyland sighed. As a rank 6 Magus that had taken over the whole flame world, the blazing flame monarch was undeniably the world's child here. With the support of the world's origin force, his comprehension of the laws of fire could progress rapidly. It was natural for him to understand them. Leyland suddenly understood a fact. It's no wonder that all magi, whether ancient or recent, frantically take over the surrounding foreign worlds. So there's this type of benefit to it. Once you take over a world, you can gradually combine with the world's origin force and finally comprehend laws, breaking through into rank 7. If one Magus can completely take over the Magus world, which is much more powerful than the fiery world, and be nurtured by its origin force, what sort of benefits can they get? Leyland's heart was set aflame. The Magus world was vast, and even the surface had yet to be explored, not to mention the countless subterranean worlds. It was much easier for a Magus now to conquer these areas as compared to the ancient era where there were many existences who comprehended laws. Just taking over a small world would bring immense benefits. What about taking over the largest, the Magus world? If someone can successfully unify the Magus world and obtain the nurture of its world origin force, they can make use of this strength to reach the limits, to reach rank 9. Leyland mumbled to himself. He could not conceal his desire to enter the highest realm that a Magus could achieve. Did achieving the peak of rank 9 grant immortality? This was a question that was whirling through Leyland's mind. However, it was also a question that he could probe into only when he did attain that rank. Immortality was Leyland's goal, magic simply a means to an end. If a rank 9 Magus was not immortal, then he would explore further and look for something else. He would not regret it even if he died in the process. This was a path of hope. He would not tolerate doubt, weakness. He would not waver. Not even ancient Magi could unify the Magus world, but I'll take this task on. Leyland clenched his fists. Golden and crimson was everywhere in the flames, and the already boiling heat only continued to increase. The air was very dry, to the point that one felt suffocated. A few fire elementals roamed within the flames. Although the fiery world was hell for any life form made of flesh and blood, it was their heaven. Lightning flashed in the void, opening up a gigantic, sparkling door. The door opened to reveal the figures of Leyland and the remaining Magi. Energy at Radiant Moon caused the flames to part automatically, not daring to approach and harass them. What high temperatures! The fiery world really isn't a place for non-elemental life forms. Melinda carefully placed a defensive layer of icy water on her skin, something that caused Leyland to roll his eyes secretly. She turned around after taking care of her skin, looking serious. Be careful. The fiery world is the blazing flame monarch's nest. Most of the fire elementals at Morning Star and Radiant Moon are stationed here. If not for having to suppress the rebellion of the fire elemental particles and the pressure from the world, he would long since have sent these elementals to the Magus world. Leyland and the other nodded. How many morning stars and radiant moons could a world produce? If they went over to the Magus world, they could probably cause a huge ruckus. However, there was an issue with this as well. Not considering their duties as guards of fiery world, a change of environment and the additional suppression from being inside another world were large issues. The Magus world was one of the most powerful worlds, and its suppression of foreigners would be one of the most terrifying. A drop in several ranks would be considered slight. The unlucky ones would directly be crushed by the world origin force itself, joining the boundless dust in the void. For Leyland and the rest, going from the Magus world to other worlds was like going from a high-ranked dungeon to a lower-ranked one. The suppression of the world wasn't that serious, and there wouldn't be instances of drops in rank. Things weren't as rosy for those who went from lower-ranked worlds to higher-ranked ones. For instance, if Scarlet Eye entered the Magus world, he was likely to drop to Morning Star from Radiant Moon. This would be even more serious for elemental life forms like the fire elementals. The most suitable environment for them was the fiery world. The blazing flame monarch is hiding in one of the world cracks of the fiery world. There are many maze spells as well as powerhouses of the fiery world guarding it. There are many rank 4 and 5 fire elementals, and this is a world where they get the greatest increase in strength. They'll outperform themselves. Melinda spoke slowly, and Leyland and the rest looked grim. It would be hellishly difficult to defeat large numbers of morning stars and radiant moons in a hostile environment, and then butt heads with the blazing flame monarch who was at rank 6. And yet, that was all that was required for a monarch to fall. The blazing flame monarch was currently at his weakest point anyway, something that allowed Melinda's group this opportunity. Don't worry. When the monarch massacred my people, I vowed to the astral plane that I would use his blood and wash away the humiliation. Clark brandished the large black sword in his hands, terrifying sharpness exploding. My baby is also thirsting for blood. No matter what brother does, I'll be supporting you. Joanna looked towards her brother. Morning Star and Radiant Moon fire elementals are nothing much. Keek, I'm having more expectations towards the blazing flame monarch's comprehension of laws. The blurry phantom of Jin snickered. Since we're already here, we're prepared for all that, Leyland chuckled, fingers brushing over his ring involuntarily. The cold surface of the ring felt smooth, giving him more confidence. Many thanks, everyone. We'll definitely win this time, and the rewards will definitely satisfy you. Please wait for a while. I'll use a technique to look for the spatial crack that the blazing flame monarch is hiding in. Melinda's eyes suddenly changed color, her pupils shrinking and disappearing to leave just the whites behind. Gazing at her eyes, even Leyland felt as if his mind was empty, all his secrets being exposed. His heart couldn't help but palpitate with fear. Found it! All of a sudden, Melinda opened her palm and a purple daffodil floated out of it. It gave off endless energy waves. Space was pulled apart like a door, revealing a pitch-black tunnel. So quickly. Leyland was slightly astonished, but he followed her in any way. Light flashed and space rumbled, and Leyland and the rest instantly appeared outside a world crack. Within, the fiery world was like a blazing sun, filled with dazzling rays of light. A large-scaled labyrinth floated outside the world barrier, as if the highest ruler of the fiery world. Outside the black building, many eyes flickered with various lights. They were morning star elementals. Even more powerful auras were transmitted from within. Leyland even felt like he was being spied on, causing his hair to stand. Joanna sucked in a cold breath. Such a complicated labyrinth and so many fire elementals. This will be difficult. Now is the best opportunity to kill our target. Melinda did not take another glance at Joanna. This is the Alanor labyrinth. Each Magus that enters will be sent to different areas and will only be able to meet again in the main hall. I'll be off. Melinda turned into a streak of lightning, and practically in an instant broke out of the perimeter of the fire elementals as she disappeared into the labyrinth. Ha ha! Blazing flame monarch, here I come. Tremble, repent. I want you to pay the price for all that you've done. Clark's expression was excited to the extreme as he waved his terrifying large black blade and charged in. Schlick. A three-headed giant fire elemental dog in his way was slashed into two, boiling lava blood flying everywhere. Seeing her brother this way, Joanna sighed and followed closely behind him. I hate elemental life forms the most. The lack of souls will cause my works of art lose their beauty. Jin muttered to himself, turning into a large black shadow that covered practically half the labyrinth. The black figure began to pervade through the insides. Blazing flame monarch, they're all lunatics. Leyland could only sigh at how insane his group members were. Lunatics with power are the most troublesome lot. HSS, a tremendous chemyon appeared behind him, and a terrifying black hole formed that exerted a tremendous suction force on the fire elementals. Devour! The terrifying might of a rank 5 chemyon emperor drew everything in, be it flames, light, or even space itself. The fire elementals began to bawl miserably, looking ready to retreat. However, their bodies were constantly being pulled into the black hole, and they were eventually devoured. There was a clear path in the space when Leyland moved. The 5 radiant moons had successfully broken through the outer layer and entered the interior of the labyrinth. Powerful auras could be felt occasionally from its various parts. At the heart of the gigantic labyrinth, on a throne of pure gold, a human figure shrouded completely in flames raised their head, a translucent mirror forming in front of them. Footage flashed, showing Leyland and the others. The blazing flame monarch's eyes constantly twinkled as they scanned past Leyland, Clark, and the rest. Their eyes rested on Jin's body for a brief moment before focusing completely on Melinda. The power of fate has brought everything back to its original trajectory, the blazing flame monarch murmured, 2 red figures splitting from his form and darting in different directions. The numbers on the screen of the AI chip were in constant flux until it came up with a conclusion. Beep. Scan completed. Determined to be the first level of the Alanor labyrinth. 12,800 m ahead, high-grade energy has been detected, determined to be a rank 5 being. Possibility of it being a fire elemental, 87.18%. So I'll need to break through all the barriers ahead to reach the blazing flame monarch. Leyland was now walking along a large and wide passageway that was tens of meters high. It looked like an area made specifically for giants, and he seemed minuscule in it. It also prevents teleportation and has such scary confining runes. Leyland shook his head. Any loopholes or gaps that can be taken advantage of have been plugged. One can only move forward step by step with momentum. Why does this feel like clearing the stages of a game from my previous world? Leyland touched his chin in speechlessness. The blue light in his eyes did not weaken. The AI chip's scanning ability had been employed to its limit. This maze-like structure had completely split the 5 of them apart. Even if Leyland wanted to search for and make contact with his companions, there would be no response. If Leyland was the blazing flame monarch, he would be a fool not to take advantage of this and attack his enemies when they were divided. Hence, besides being cautious of traps and obstacles, he was very focused on the possible attacks from the flame monarch. Rumble. Boiling heat waves blew towards Leyland as he walked out of the passage, and a gigantic lava lake appeared before him. White air bubbles constantly exploded in the area, giving off a very strong smell of sulfur. The lake stretched as far as the eye could see, into the boundless red horizon. Is the rank 5 creature the AI chip detected in here? Leyland's eyes focused on the lava lake, seemingly penetrating through the thick lava and into its depths. Come out, he said with a smile on his lips as a gigantic two-headed figure abruptly darted into the lake, splashing around at will. The lava exploded, crashing down everywhere like rain. A black figure grew in size as it suddenly emerged from the bottom of the lake, revealing terrifying mandibles similar to that of an alligator. Crack! The two-headed snake figure was torn up by the alligator's mouth, and the large black figure continued to ascend from the lava lake. Roar! The alligator-like being in front of Leyland had flames burning all over it. Droplets of scarlet lava dripped down from its scales and cracks constantly, its thin body still enormous. Its sinister-looking teeth were set in a large mouth, above which were 2 scarlet soul flames. It looked like a flame alligator that had evolved vertically, possessing the arms and long legs of humans. Its fingers were like black reverse hooks and appeared very sharp. AI chip conduct scan, Leyland ordered without hesitation. Beep, Flame Sovereign King, rank 5 being. It is an elemental life form. Strength, 238. Agility, 124. Vitality, 495. Spiritual force, 1523. A unique resident of the fiery world, it is a rare mutation among hundreds of morning star fire elementals, allowing it to be a commander. Innate abilities, 1 fire affinity, 2, fire skin, 3, fire elemental summon, 4, unknown. The AI chip quickly projected a 3D image of a large fire sovereign king in front of him. Beside the image was also a column with data in it that presented the opponent's statistics in detail. A rank 5 fire elemental life form with such stats. The figure of a Chemian serpent emperor appeared behind Leyland. If he didn't want to use his trump card, Leyland would have to make use of certain methods to deal with a radiant moon rank creature. Roarer! The flame sovereign king snarled, and 3 dark red bundles of light separated from its body, falling into the lava lake. Dark red bundles of light constantly expanded and eventually exploded, revealing 3 fire elemental life forms that had strange forms. Each of them had energy undulations that were at least at morning star. Swish scarlet energy channels appeared at the flame sovereign king's legs, and the water level of the entire lava lake sank. With the absorption of a large amount of lava, the toll on it from having a few subordinates separating from it had completely disappeared. A summoning spell that allows it to split up into beings with morning star strength, and it even has methods to replenish its energy. Leyland stroked his chin. This guy's vitality is just too powerful in the fiery world. With just a slight misstep, I'll have to deal with an arduous battle, which is rather disadvantageous. Roar. The 3 morning star fire elementals charged out at this moment, accompanied by the enraged howls of the flame sovereign king, bloodline seal. Leyland spread his hands and red bloodline force formed a ring of light, binding a morning star fire elemental. Icy sphere! At the same time, a sparkling giant ball of ice exploded in the air, and snowflakes fell everywhere, even causing the temperature of the lava lake to drop by a few degrees. The 2 fire elementals that were attacking were covered by a layer of frost, solidifying and fusing with the ground. They were completely frozen. Warning, warning. Energy in the opposing fire elemental's body has violent undulations, determined to be on the verge of self-detonation. Host, please take note. The AI chip's prompt caused Leyland's expression to instantly change. At this moment, the sounds of the flame sovereign king's roars were transmitted over. Ow! Bang! Bang! Along with terrifying sound waves, the 3 morning star fire elementals were filled up with a bright layer of red as they exploded, boiling hot heat waves spreading through the area. Though Leyland had gotten a warning beforehand from the AI chip and darted away in time, he still hadn't escaped completely unscathed. Roar, 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 roar. At this moment, 4 bundles of glimmering dark red balls formed 4 morning star fire elementals, and Leyland's expression went dark. If I don't take care of the main body, this will be endless. Demonic black flames formed around Leyland's body, devouring the waves of fire from the previous detonations. The Black Phoenix flames raged in the fiery world, their devouring ability causing the opposing elementals to retreat. Even the Sovereign King was put in fear. Obscure fireplume technique, soaring demonic phoenix. Along with a high-pitched phoenix cry, a large black phoenix appeared in the air, two blazing flames sweeping across the region. The four elementals immediately burst apart, and their flames were absorbed by the black demonic fire. This allowed the Black Phoenix to become even more enormous as it charged towards the Flame Sovereign King. Roar! The Flame Sovereign King bellowed, a layer of flaming skin covering it as it collided with the tremendous Black Phoenix. Demonic black flames flew in all directions just as the scarlet flames did, both using up each other's strength and devouring each other. The enormous vibrations spread in all directions in the labyrinth. In another area, Melinda chose a path with extreme familiarity. She met almost no dangers along the way and was moving without obstruction. Her eyes were now glimmering with something brighter than light itself. "I'm here. Are you ready?" All of a sudden, the immense waves caused by Leyland traveled here, causing even this path she was taking to shake. "The helpers this time are very powerful." Melinda laughed in satisfaction, her figure disappearing into the darkness. Whoosh. A giant black blade slashed out, the sword lights instantly causing 4 attacks that each beheaded an elemental. 4 large heads fell, blazing with raging flames. "You did well, brother." The sword-wielding fighter was naturally Clark. Behind him, Joanna stared at him with an unspeakable tenderness within her eyes. These 2 rank 5 magi had somehow bypassed the limitations of the Alanor labyrinth and were working together. "Soon, Joanna, soon, brother will bring you along to take revenge," Clark chuckled. All of a sudden, his expression changed. "Be careful." The labyrinth's collapse void shattered, and a red figure appeared beside Joanna. Endless flames lay docile on his body, flickering with scarlet light. This was evidently a peak rank 5 Magus. He solemnly grabbed at Joanna, pure golden flames turning into sharp claws that caused Joanna's defenses to break inch by inch. "Blazing Flame Monarch!" Clark howled with fury, arriving in front of her. The sharp, flaming claws ruthlessly grabbed him, causing the steel armor to break. Even the skin underneath had been roasted a charred black, revealing bright silver metallic bones. Within the Alanor labyrinth, there was only one person who could move freely, and that was its owner, the Blazing Flame Monarch. Clark spat out fresh blood as he and Joanna were sent flying. "Brother, brother!" Joanna kept screaming, eyes instantly turning blood red. "How dare you harm my brother? I want you dead." Thin, translucent threads emerged from her hands, and even the void itself was cut through as they headed in the direction of the red figure in the air. Fierce golden flames struck the translucent threads. Under the burning of the flames, the threads gradually melted. Not far away, Joanna turned pale. "Joanna, get behind me." At this point, Clark stood up once again as if he did not have a life-threatening injury on his chest. "Blazing Flame Monarch, I've waited for this day for a long time." BZZT. Clark's hands were on his giant black sword, emanating the terrifying undulations from high-grade magic equipment. The sharp rays of light were bright and dazzling, and even the void was constantly crumbling in front of it. "Sorrow of Gaia!" Clark yelled in his anger, the phantom of a vast land appearing behind him. An aura of rot converged on his body, forming terrifying sword glints. "Death and decay are not something a living soul can control." The scarlet being in the air spoke slowly, a red sword with flames on it similarly appearing in its hands. "In the name of fire, your only destination shall be the stillness of an eternal death." The whole world seemed to tremble and cheer as large amounts of fire elemental particles wound automatically around the surface of the flaming sword. These 2 longswords that had surpassed the limitations of space connected in the next instant, the dark green force that represented death and wilting up against the scarlet fire. Their collision formed a storm that annihilated everything. Red sword light flashed in the roiling storm, and Clark's whole body fell backwards. To be precise, half his body fell back. Everything under Clark's lower abdomen had completely disappeared, as if he had been chopped in half at the waist. It revealed a mechanical backbone and translucent fluids. The scarlet figure of the Blazing Flame Monarch was revealed once more as the energy storm dissipated. He stared at Clark's wounds and suddenly laughed. It's not even a mechanical modification, just the puppet of a soul servant. The true Clark should have died long ago. He turned around, staring at Joanna, who had tears in her eyes. A pretty good soul division technique. It's no wonder the two of you weren't separated when you came in. You are one and the same. Clark's your courage, longing, and hatred. After removing these qualities, your main body is only left with weakness. No, my brother isn't dead. Joanna cried out like a kitten whose tail had been stepped on, tears spilling out of her eyes. Don't cry, sister. The half-bodied Clark on the ground consoled her with a smile, but the voice grew increasingly rigid and the sound intermittent. It eventually turned robotic. Ah, wait. I seem to remember only a little girl surviving during that massacre then. Was it you? A strange smile appeared on the blazing flame monarch's face. You actually placed all your hopes on someone else. Even if you've reached rank 5, you're still trash. Words that were as sharp as a blade caused Joanna's face to turn deathly pale. No, I'm not. She hugged her head, on the brink of a complete breakdown. The blazing flame monarch looked proud, and just as he was about to deal her another blow and upset her further, his expression suddenly changed. Joanna was still hugging her head, but streams of black gas were dispelled from her body. A dangerous aura formed around her, one that even had him considering retreat. What's going on? Wait, she's the descendant of that deceased clan. Could it be? The blazing flame monarch's eyes shrank, and large amounts of flaming shackles appeared and shot towards Joanna. He was one step too late. Joanna looked up and began to scream. An endless, terrifying undulation immediately enveloped the whole region. Thud. The terrifying rank 5 fire elemental, the alligator-human hybrid flame sovereign king toppled down, the flames on its body extinguishing bit by bit. The two bundles of soul flames gradually dimmed in its eye sockets. Soul light was constantly dispelled from the body, bringing with it dense fire elemental particles that were like fireflies. They quickly disappeared into the air. Chirp! A high-pitched cry sounded, and a large black phoenix descended from the skies. The flames withdrew to reveal Leyland, who was within. The rank 5 flame sovereign king really was quite troublesome. I almost had to use my arcane art. Leyland stood at the edges of the lava lake. After the death of the sovereign king, the black walls of the labyrinth at the other side of the lake pushed and pulled each other like toy-building blocks, revealing a pitch-black pathway. It's hard to tell how many stages there are in the labyrinth, unless... Leyland stroked the ring on his hand. A maze set up by a rank 6 Magus was something a rank 5 like him could only solve directly. It required another rank 6 to act to break it, or other special circumstances. H. An ear-piercing screech was transmitted to Leyland's ears, the hatred and terrifying energy it held causing Leyland's expression to change slightly. It came from there. Did anything happen? Boom. One of the walls slowly crumbled following the explosion, and large amounts of black dust fell down. The labyrinth is already showing signs of collapsing. This power seems to be a unique type that's rumored to have existed in ancient times. Leyland's eyes glinted coldly. While he was focused on the energy undulations, space suddenly collapsed around him. A scarlet figure appeared before him like before. Flames seethed in the opponent's hands, seemingly breaking their limitations to possess a terrifying heat. They caused the other energy particles to constantly draw back. There were only flames within this domain. The origin law of fire. So you're the one who's been spying on me, Leyland snickered, his right hand unhesitatingly activating the silver ring. Streams of fog dissipated, instantly forming a world of fog. Roar! The phantom of a 4-armed cyclops with hard skin emerged from the ring. The fog space of the ancient misty fog giant. The world of fog enveloped Leyland and the person who had launched a sneak attack. The opponent's law of fire was already tangled up by the fog, using up its energy. With the blood from Bevis as the basis, and via in-depth processing by the AI chip, Leyland had successfully created a bloodline imprint of the misty fog giant and sealed it within the ring. Since it was a spell that could be activated using a bloodline, Leyland's bloodline imprint had reached a might of rank 6. Is this the law of fog? Leyland could sense a deep-seated force in this world of fog. This was the law that controlled it. Due to its connection with the bloodline imprint, he gained some rudimentary control as well. Large amounts of gray fog were like the most docile stream of water to him, allowing him to do as he liked. Crush him. With Leyland's command, great amounts of gray fog immediately turned into hardened rock, bringing with them the world will as they rained down on the red figure. This isn't your own ability. It's an ancient rank 6 spell. The tremendous force caused the scarlet figure to cry out involuntarily. He was covered by the fog immediately after. Red light constantly penetrated through the fog, yet it grew increasingly dark. This is the real ancient fog space. If Bevis had used a spell like this, I might have long since been defeated or even killed. Leyland sighed. While Bevis did have the blood of the Misty Fog giant, he had no AI chip, and it wasn't as if he could endlessly consume his bloodline for spells. Leyland was different. After being purified by the AI chip, the blood of the Misty Fog giant now displayed its might like in ancient times. Damn it, there's another one. Another voice sounded from within the fog, and it soon turned deathly silent. The world of fog dissipated, returning to the scene of the lava lake from before. Another one. Light flashed, and Leyland's figure emerged. Looks like it isn't the first time he's been at such a disadvantage, and... Leyland stared at where the scarlet figure had been. There was now nothing there. A rank 5 clone. Looks like the blazing flame monarch has no helpers nearby and has no choice but to do this himself. Good timing. I'll make use of this. Leyland waved his arms, and the fog that had not completely dispersed spread out, completely corroding the walls of the labyrinth. Crack! Crack! The labyrinth walls that had already gone through immense damage could not hold on any longer and began to break apart inch by inch. Much of the wall turned into powder, and this was still spreading further. Flame Monarch the Alanor Labyrinth was a maze pattern that a rank 6 Breaking Dawn Magus had painstakingly set up. The magi who wished to intrude would have to advance by passing through all of the stages, only then reaching the end. Now, after withstanding all this damage, as well as 2 intentional attacks on Leyland's end, the labyrinth had begun to crumble. Bit by bit, the walls split open, glowing runes turning to powder. The lava lake from before was gradually drying up, revealing a surface full of cracks. The pathways were continuously crumbling with this area as the center. The collapse of the Alanor labyrinth is happening earlier than I expected. Melinda furrowed her beautiful brows and sank into deep thought. A dark shadow then charged towards the heart of the labyrinth at a quicker pace. Within the barriers of the boundless world crack was the fiery world. It was like the sun, the exterior of which was the imposing and serene Alanor labyrinth. All of a sudden, the labyrinth creaked. It was like it could no longer hold its burden, and began to collapse inch by inch. Once the foundations completely crumbled, the large building began to topple with a loud rumble, and the surrounding fire elementals fled for their lives. Along with a tremendous rumbling sound, the labyrinth completely broke down, revealing a minor plane. Light flashed in the air, and Melinda took the first step onto this minor plane. This minor plane was like the Morning Star area, a world that was yet to mature. This minor plane was obviously much smaller than the Morning Star area, with only a single layer. One could even see it end to end. With just one look, Melinda could see a flaming figure sitting on a throne of pure gold at the middle of the place. At the same time, the flaming figure turned and met Melinda's gaze. Terrifying energy that reached rank 6 emanated from the opponent's body, hovering around him. This was a rank 6 Magus, a Breaking Dawn. It was a monarch. The Magus sitting on the golden throne had evidently grasped some bits of the laws of fire. This was the blazing flame monarch, the ruler of an enormous territory and the one who almost caused the extinction of the bloodline warlocks. "You're here," the blazing flame monarch asked, the voice androgynous. "Yes. I've returned to take back what belongs to me," Melinda muttered, her tone becoming increasingly resolute. "You were mere emotions that I intentionally dispelled so that I could advance to Breaking Dawn. You're just garbage I tossed out. What are you taking me back for?" The flames dissipated, revealing the figure of the Magus on the throne. Yet this Magus was obviously female. What's more, her face bore some semblance to Melinda's. "No, I am the consciousness of the main body. You're only a thief that took it over." "A despicable thief." Melinda's face flushed red. "So you're making use of this opportunity and trying to steal everything back." The female Magus on the throne chuckled, as if she was watching a mischievous child making a fuss in front of her. "But I have to admit, the allies you've found are excellent magi. They're powerful and hold the possibility of advancing further. They could very well become new monarchs in the future. Everything's over. Return what's mine to me." Melinda took a step forward, her aura fluctuating abruptly, seemingly even exceeding the peak of rank 5. "Having lost me, you're at your weakest, and the more powerful I am, the weaker you get." Melinda took several steps forward, eyes glimmering with light. As long as I can suppress you, I'll be able to obtain everything. Pure golden flames rose once more, and the female Magus atop the flame throne slowly got up. You're wrong. No matter how weak a Breaking Dawn Magus is, there's still a Breaking Dawn at the core. It's already been 3,000 years. Did you think I did nothing at all in this time? It's just an issue pertaining to the soul. With the support of Fire Origin Force, as well as the amassed knowledge of the Magus world, I found a way to mend the loss of a part of my true soul. As if to verify her words, a golden sun appeared behind the female Magus. Boiling hot strength rippled out from the true soul, emanating energy waves that put Melinda on the verge of suffocation. This was a Breaking Dawn's true soul. The icy cold of moonlight had transformed into terrifying, boiling light. Its volume and power showed that it had reached the peak. You've recovered. Melinda abruptly halted her footsteps. Not only have I recovered, I've even forged ahead to greater heights. The blazing flame monarch stated, an unquestionably terrifying energy held within her. Keek, I seem to have heard something amazing. A translucent figure emerged, and Jin's hoarse voice sounded from the shadows. So Melinda, you're my enemy as well. Joanna and Leyland hurried over around the same time. Joanna was quite different from before, and Clark hadn't appeared, as if he'd disappeared. Joanna was now glaring at Melinda with hatred. I trusted you so much in the past, but you betrayed me. Leyland observed Joanna's state. So it's her. I thought the first vibrations were from Jin or Melinda. This appearance, she looks quite similar to one of the 12 top-grade bodies written down in ancient records. The AI chip completely recorded down Joanna's external appearance and presented it to Leyland with a projection. The Joanna in the projection had completely dark purple hair, and a strange flower-shaped pattern appeared on her forehead like a tattoo. Yet, it rippled with some sort of luster. Beep. Detected abnormal radiations from target's body. Vigorous increase in ability to attract energy particles with runes seen on the surface of the body. The AI chip began to present the results of its scanning, and in Leyland's eyes, Joanna's body seemed to turn into a gigantic magnet, attracting the free energy particles in the air. They formed a mysterious circuit in her body, allowing her spiritual and magic power to replenish itself continuously. It even seemed to rise, breaking through a bottleneck. I really want to. Leyland lowered his head, eyes flickering with an intelligent glint. I really want to study her. It's not just her physique. This ability clearly has something to do with a natural ability to increase the aptitude of the soul itself. I can increase elemental affinity, but a natural gift like this to strengthen the soul has practically gone extinct in the central continent. Whatever she did to your clan occurred after I separated from her. It's the same with the bloodline warlocks. I am not your enemy. Melinda glanced at Joanna and Leyland, smiling wryly as she gave an explanation. Her strength slightly exceeds my expectations. I'll need your help. I don't care about that. Jin was the first to retort. You promised to share the law comprehension crystals with us once we killed her. Was that all a lie? It was only at this point that Leyland remembered that Melinda had promised to split the law comprehension crystals from the blazing flame monarch's death evenly. She didn't even seem to mind losing her own share. At that point, they had all been against the blazing flame monarch, and Leyland had assumed Melinda was like them as well, only satisfied with the monarch's death. However, by the looks of it, she had left behind a loophole that wasn't quite a loophole. She was part of the flame monarch's soul, and once Melinda returned to her main body and gained control over the blazing flame monarch, that meant the monarch was dead. Yet, as the other party had not truly died, it was impossible for there to be any law comprehension crystals, and even more impossible for there to be any distribution. This woman harbored terrible intentions from the very beginning and wanted to use us as laborers. Leyland shook his head inside. Though I never did expect much from her, this is still quite upsetting. He could tell that if Melinda succeeded, their only gains from this mission would be what they got from Dews City, nothing more. On the other hand, Melinda would have become the blazing flame monarch. Even they wouldn't dare to complain about a rank 6 Magus even if they had thoughts against it. Melinda's plan was very perfect, but she had not thought Leyland and Joanna would have strength surpassed her expectations. On top of that, the blazing flame monarch had actually eliminated the issues from the breaking up of a true soul, and was perhaps now at her peak. All who have the audacity to violate my city are to kneel and repent before me. Boiling hot soul force was like steel that sealed the space around them. The blazing flame monarch's low voice resounded through the area, putting Leyland under immense pressure. Melinda's expression was first terrible but quickly brightened up. No, that's not it. We still have a chance. If her injuries were really completely healed, she wouldn't hide here and watch us invade and destroy Dew's city, even letting her subordinates be massacred at our hands. Leyland, Joanna, I'm depending on you now. No matter what requests you have after this is over, I'll agree to them. Before, Leyland and Joanna's strength had been too outstanding and caused there to be some changes in Melinda's calculations. However, it was these changes that gave her hope. How ridiculous. Before Leyland and the rest could reply, the female Magus in front of the throne snickered. Golden rays of light were like a world of their own, dazzling gold soul force pouring out with large amounts of flames. It led Leyland to almost believe he was watching the rebirth of the sun's child here. In the midst of this scorching first sunrise, a pitiful cry rang out. When Leyland opened his eyes once more, Jin was now raised and held in the blazing flame monarch's hand. Trump card and resolution. Out of all these people, you were the one that I felt was the most dangerous. I didn't expect it to be an old friend. The female flame Magus stared at the faint human figure in her hands, a slight smile on her face. I don't know what you're saying. Jin's voice was hoarse and robotic. Kellard, I cannot tolerate any outsiders peeping in on my land of flames. The blazing flame monarch seemed to be confident in herself. A terrifying golden soul force entered Jin's body with her declaration, threads of gold traveling through the faint body as they burst into golden flames. The blazing flame monarch conjured an illusory scene from of Jin's body. A platinum figure seemed to be seated on a throne within a spacious place. The golden flames seemed to pierce through the void, descending in that area. A low sigh was heard from the platinum figure. A feather appeared, turning into an odd-looking longsword amidst white light. There were feather-shaped ornaments on the hilt of this sword that swung down viciously. The void surged and separated, the palace from before disappearing. Jin exploded like a balloon in the blazing flame monarch's hands. Kellard, is that the monarch of the sky's real name? I'd assumed Jin was a spirit Magus. To think he was actually a puppet. It looks like it isn't just Melinda that's plotting against the blazing flame monarch. Intelligence flashed in Leyland's eyes, and he looked towards the blazing flame monarch who seemed completely fine but was silent. But a monarch's plot can't be so weak, can it? A hint of anticipation rose in Leyland's eyes. After all, this was a breaking dawn Magus working behind the scenes. Jin shouldn't be so easy to deal with. BZZT. At this moment, a few pure white goose feathers fell on Leyland's shoulder like snow, causing him to freeze. Immediately after, a snow of feathers fell down on the place. The ground was covered by a thin layer of white that even shrouded the blazing flame monarch's golden soul force. Cracks began to appear on the boundary of the half-dimension, but the effects were even worse on the blazing flame monarch herself. Rumble. Golden flames burst forth from her body, immediately burning the feathers that drew close to ashes. However, there was still some white that managed to pass through her defenses. Her expression changed. Damn you, Kellard! Boom. The feathers exploded, causing her to sway a little. Immediately after, the scorching sun that was her trousseau suddenly dimmed, and the temperature nearby quickly lowered. The oppressive aura in the half-dimension was reduced. Brown cracks streaked across the faint figure of the blazing flame monarch's trousseau, and even the monarch's own aura weakened. So you still can't completely suppress your injuries. Melinda moved forward, an odd aura being emanated from her body as it pounced towards the monarch. Die! Joanna was even faster. Her aura had already reached the peak of radiant moon, and purple gas converged to form a trident that pierced towards the blazing flame monarch. Get out of the way! The golden flames on the monarch's body grew tenfold as exuberant with her cry, incinerating everything the monarch of the skies had arranged. After launching that attack, the blazing flame monarch staggered backwards, and cracks began to appear on the golden throne behind her. Facing the attacks of Melinda and Joanna, the monarch's expression grew solemn. It was as if she was a god when she made the declaration. I am the blazing flame monarch. The laws of fire in this world shall be controlled by I alone. Large amounts of scarlet fire particles appeared, forming something on a level higher than a domain that completely enveloped the area. You've comprehended the laws of fire. Even just a bit is already so powerful. Leyland's head hung down a little, covering his eyes that were constantly emitting light. He could feel with his senses that the moment the blazing flame monarch summoned this plane of fire that was even more powerful than a domain, The fire elemental particles that he could normally control seemed to have an aura that rejected the summons of his soul force. This was much more intense than the elemental isolation of a morning star domain. Leyland even felt that the fire element now had a life and will of its own, and was automatically rejecting his control over it. Just comprehending a tiny portion of a law gives you a huge advantage over weaker existences, Leyland sighed. At this moment, the blazing flame monarch's right hand ruthlessly grabbed forward. Law of fire! Rumble. A bundle of flames emerged in front of her, seeming neither strong nor very hot. However, it was like the most primal fire in the world, filled with a great ancient aura of leadership. The tip of the purple trident sizzled and melted the moment it came into contact with the fire. The sound caused Joanna's expression to warp. The scarlet flames seemed to have a life of their own in the blazing flame monarch's hands, and immediately flickered as they turned into a fiery whip. Joanna's body was sent flying backwards, a long luminous burn mark on her body. I am the master of the flames, one who has grasped the power of law. You can't stop me. A berserk soul force radiated from the blazing flame monarch as if to prove her point. Melinda took several steps backwards. The soul force at the breaking dawn realm had caused a backlash to her hand, and 2 streams of blood dripped from her eyes. She quickly retreated and transmitted to Leyland, "You're not going to fight back." "I can do that, but what benefits will you give me?" Leyland's arms were bunched together as he stared at Melinda coldly. "What do you want?" Melinda was about to go crazy. At this point, Leyland was still ignorant of the big picture. Did he not know that once the blazing flame monarch killed her and Joanna, he wouldn't be able to escape either? "I want the method you used to divide your true soul and sever the soul." Leyland was very confident that he could flee, which was why he was in no hurry and was even bargaining for the best benefits. With his strength, he was confident he could escape even the blazing flame monarch at her peak, much less now when she was incomplete. He was rather interested in the technique of soul separation that she possessed. Though he wouldn't do it himself, it would be a good supplement for his database. "All right," Melinda agreed to Leyland's condition unhesitatingly. As of now, the priority was eliminating the blazing flame monarch. No matter how important the technique of severing souls was, it was just some information. There was obviously no issue at all. This was not all. Leyland instantly sensed Melinda's sincerity. Beep. Discovered spiritual force data interface. Allow transmission. The AI chip asked robotically. After Leyland chose to allow the transmission, large amounts of information instantly emerged in his mind. Though he did not go through it in detail, the AI chip scans showed that this was the real deal. The power of laws can only be dealt with by laws. The gray ring on Leyland's right hand exploded, and a puff of fog appeared, forming a gray world that contended with the opposing monarch's flame plane. A rank 6 bloodline spell. Gray fog and scarlet flames each consumed the energy of the other, and space itself was torn apart where these 2 tremendous domains met. A cry sounded from the blazing flame monarch's side. "Darned bloodline warlocks! I should have completely destroyed you long ago." These words that were filled with hatred did not cause Leyland to stop. He smiled instead. "I've always loved listening to the anguish and ire of those who want to eliminate me. It means they're completely defeated." Even if Leyland had sealed a bloodline imprint from Bevis, Misty Fog giant bloodline in the ring, he could only launch 2 attacks. One had been used on the blazing flame monarch's clone, and the other was being employed here. "AI chip, focus on collecting information," Leyland ordered. With the chip as a medium, Leyland could somewhat sense and manipulate the laws of fog. How could he not record such precious information? Beep, beginning to record under laws of fog. The AI chip quickly intoned. At this moment, large amounts of gray fog formed a monster with 3 heads that was under Leyland's control. Toxins, lightning, and frost were being spewed out by these heads, striking the flame plane. Even stray energy from the toxins, lightning, and frost caused Melinda and Joanna to retreat in a hurry, afraid to get hit. "My bloodline imprint only has 1 attack left. If you have any methods, use them now. I'll break through the opponent's defensive laws." Leyland stared at Melinda and Joanna without much emotion. The 3-headed monster roared and tore at the flame plane, revealing the main body of the blazing flame monarch. Whoosh! A sharp gray claw descended and extinguished the flames that the blazing flame monarch had summoned, and even tore apart the flame shackles. At this moment, a trace of astonishment appeared on the monarch's confident face. She had evidently never thought that Leyland's control over the power of laws would grow this quickly. "Brother, wait for me. I am about to be done with my vengeance." A deep hatred rose in Joanna's eyes for the blazing flame monarch. She pounced forward, streams of purple gas appearing from her back to form a gigantic plant that was similar to the flower on her forehead. "Erosion of the sun, let's perish together." Joanna had on an insane smile. It was as if death was not the end for her, only a beginning. Many roots formed from her body, wrapping around her and the blazing flame monarch. The faint image of the purple plant solidified, and the roots wound tightly together as the two fell into the half-dimension. Branches and leaves spread out, the bud at the very top growing and blooming. With the blazing flame monarch's infuriated howls, a purple flower bud with unworldly beauty slowly blossomed in the half-dimension. A terrifying strength took form at the same time, forming purple light that spread in all directions. Even the world of fog was affected as it crumbled down. "This is bad." Leyland's pupils shrank. The remaining fog force immediately created a thick wall-like structure in front of him, behind which Melinda squeezed in unceremoniously. Following that, purple light spread through the skies and drowned the area. The half-dimension hidden within the labyrinth burst apart under the purple light, and many black holes appeared in the region, devouring the surroundings. The scene looked to be of the world's end. The stray energy from the explosion still bombarded the protective sphere of the fiery world, causing it to shake. Once everything calmed down again, the original world crack now looked completely different. Large amounts of irreparable spatial rifts had appeared in the place, and endless turbulence streaked past the void, causing what was now in ruins further damage. Even the nebulae around the place, what was similar to his previous world, had completely dissipated in the explosion. Bits of dimmed starlight flashed every once in a while from the edges, as if fading away and reconciling to this fact. A large bundle of fog dissipated in this shattered void, revealing the figures of Leyland and Melinda. As expected from the physique of an ancient clan, the destructive force from her self-detonation. Leyland seemed to be praising it, yet there was still some regret in his words. He was very interested in studying this sort of physique, and had never expected the other party to so resolutely detonate herself. The terrifying storm that formed as a result was enough for Leyland and Melinda to be affected even with the defense from the rank 6 energy of the Misty Fog Giant, and they cut sorry figures. "The bloodline!" Leyland's eyes turned red, and a small-scale vortex formed in his hands. Some of the items in the void seemed to be attracted by some formless strength and automatically reached Leyland's hand. Large motes of light condensed to form a droplet of purple blood with bits of gold shimmering within. "So this is all that remains? What an overbearing spell," Leyland sighed, stowing the blood away. "Not yet. The blazing flame monarch isn't dead." There was glee following Melinda's gasp of surprise. This was the best situation for her, with the blazing flame monarch heavily injured and unable to resist her claim to dominance. "She's a Breaking Dawn Magus after all. How could she die so easily?" Leyland nodded solemnly. He'd never dared to underestimate such a high-ranking Magus. On top of that, the AI chip did not give any conclusion of sorts, and instead scanned the space for the aura of the blazing flame monarch. This made Leyland even more acutely aware of the result. Golden flames abruptly surged in the void, increasing in volume to form a giant blazing door. The blazing flame monarch walked out of this giant door, her detached eyes full of ruthlessness. Rumble. The flaming door quickly shrank to form a golden Magus robe that draped over her body. "I never thought a bug like you would interfere with the reincarnation procedure this time. It seems like ancient clans like these and the bloodline warlocks should all be exterminated." A peak rank 6 aura was being emitted from their opponent's body, and Leyland and Melinda shared a glance as they laughed bitterly. The ability to be revived by flames. Leyland stroked his chin. Seems rather well suited to the fire element. It even has a healing effect which shares some similarities to the icy world's freezing innate skill. We're already in this situation, and you still have time to think about that. Melinda didn't know whether to laugh or cry in response. Yet the blazing flame monarch had already raised her right hand, and a long sword made of raging flames appeared in it. "In the name of the blazing flame monarch, I shall judge you." Immense flames surged out with sword lights. These flames were not ordinary, they were from the law of fire. Just the descent of a few wisps drew out all the fire elemental particles in the region in an instant. All the other elemental particles were tyrannically rejected and repelled. With her rebirth from the flames, not only had the blazing flame monarch managed to survive Joanna's self-detonation, but she'd also healed all her injuries. She had regained her strength as a peak rank 6 monarch. "Get out of the way," Leyland pushed at Melinda, and a large amount of crimson light surged out. "Bloodline shield!" Rumble. The flaming sword struck the shield, emitting a frigid sound. On the other side, Melinda tossed out a piece of magic equipment similar to a statue, blocking the blazing flame monarch's attack. With Joanna's death, Melinda and Leyland were the only two invaders remaining. Leyland's rank 6 bloodline fog had left a deep impression on her, so Melinda transmitted a query to him. "Do you still have another bloodline imprint?" "No. Do you think a rank 6 bloodline is so easily obtained? The amount of blood I had was only enough to create 2 imprints." Leyland glared at Melinda, waving his right hand. He was speaking the truth. The ring on his hand had long since disappeared. Upon hearing this, a hint of despair appeared in Melinda's beautiful eyes. "I can't take this lying down. Am I really going to die with Big Brother here?" "She's going crazy again." Watching Melinda, whose voice had turned into that of a little girl once more, Leyland was rendered speechless. It seemed like the original blazing flame monarch had discarded more than one portion of her soul, which was why Melinda had such bizarre emotions and a split personality. "Despicable Warlock bloodline and the trashes that I had disposed of before. Let me purge you completely today." The blazing flame monarch that had regained her full strength took several steps closer, the peak rank 6 strength causing Leyland's expression to change. Only when face to face with her did he realize how terrifying the might of a monarch was. The opponent's trussel was like a scorching sun, tens of times larger than that of a radiant moon and of better quality. This golden soul force exceeded the strength of radiant moon soul force and made even Leyland feel suppressed. "Erosion of the sun!" The monarch raised her sword once more, the faint image of her trussel appearing behind her. Black light formed at the heart of the sun, converging on the tip of the flaming longsword. From the black spot, Leyland could feel a terrifying energy that could obliterate everything in its path. Opposing qualities, huh? This is incomparably close to the antimatter theory in my previous world. "Purify!" Along with an exclamation, the blazing flame monarch swung her sword out, pitch black light beginning to shoot towards Leyland and Melinda. Full of destructive energy, it surged like a stormy sea and roared. The world origin force of the fiery world beside them boiled and disappeared into the blazing flame monarch's body, causing this attack to grow even more powerful. An attack befitting one at the peak of rank 6. Leyland sighed, and then did not hesitate as he commanded, "AI chip, begin defensive plan number 2. Beep. Mission established, beginning usage of host's energy and forming defense. The AI chip's icy voice intoned immediately. Meanwhile, a layer of black chemian scales appeared on the surface of his body. He tossed out large numbers of potions that formed a colorful defense. At the outermost layer, the bloodline shield changed its shape with the manipulation of the AI chip, welcoming the black light headed their way. Rumble. Space itself crumbled. Even a world crack could not withstand such a powerful explosion, and spatial storms were formed everywhere. Leyland emerged from the explosion, much of his Magus robes torn apart. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his lips. "So, Melinda, are you dead yet?" Leyland's eyes flashed with wit as he glanced in Melinda's direction. White light flashed in the void, and Melinda's head appeared. Her body had completely severed from below the neck, and on those body parts there were signs of burns that had clotted and turned into scars. "If I died, you'd definitely have died before me." Melinda's face was now as pale as a dead person, as if she had lost all blood. "I can't hold this for long. Do you have any other methods to deal with her?" "I have one more." Melinda, who now only had a head, glanced at Leyland and seemed to have made up her mind. "Yes." Leyland pretended to struggle with the decision and spoke in a low voice. "But that's my life-saving trump card. Once it's used, I'm not going to bother with you. You don't need to. As long as you can successfully suppress her for a period of time, leave everything to me. All the benefits that I spoke of in the contract will be given to you." Melinda gritted her teeth. "Fine." Leyland chuckled, and a few balls made of crystal appeared. Within these sparkling crystal balls was a dark red gas that was like a river. Boom, boom, boom. Many of the balls exploded, and a strange power spread outwards. "It's no use. I've already grasped authority over flames. Any attacks below laws." The flame monarch stopped abruptly, her beautiful eyes suddenly showing astonishment.